Welcome to Learning Aloud, a podcast from the Organizational Dynamics community at the University of Pennsylvania, produced to inspire purposeful leadership practice and transform organizational experience. I am your host, Zach Davis. My guest for this episode of Learning Aloud is Erica Wexler, founder and CEO of Erica Wexler Transforms and creator of the Transformational Guidance Training Program. She specializes in providing organizations with strategies to leverage their strengths, elevate engagement, and maximize their productivity and impact. Erica earned a master's degree in organizational dynamics in our program here at Penn and holds dual certifications in organizational leadership and change management. She's a published author, an avid dancer, a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, and an accredited LIFO licensee trainer and executive coach. Erica has joined us in our virtual Zoom studio today to talk about her work and a few exciting new projects in the pipeline. Great to have you, Erica. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much. It's so great to be here together, Zach.
So your company recently celebrated a milestone. Can you talk about what it means to be leading a successful consulting and training practice?
Just hearing you say that is really heartwarming to hear, and having that reflected back. So I started this business many years ago in terms of thinking about what I wanted to do and the impact that I wanted to have, and my work in the MSOD program had a lot to do with that. So when it comes to business milestones, I had the initial idea for this business in 2015. When I began really thinking, it was post-graduation, and I'd been building my skills all along the way, and I was using a bunch of the stuff that I graduated with, and I came back from some personal life-changing pieces and began thinking, okay, I believe that I can have a bigger impact, a positive and necessary impact, and what does that mean? What do I do? And what is the impact that I want to have? And out of that came this idea of, okay, what are the skills that I have? What are the strengths that I do? And it all came down to communication. Communication with ourselves, communications with others, communications with our clients, communications as an organization, communications as very large systems. And it was very aligned with the approach that I had taken in the MSOD program in terms of looking at all of those dynamics on an individual level and on a group level and on a systems level as big as it can get. So the milestone that you're referring to is that I had this inkling of an idea in 2015. And over time, I began growing the business and facilitating trainings, facilitating change initiatives, while I was also working full-time in an organization doing all of those same things within an organization that I really cared about and that I'd helped design while I was in the program.
Okay.
So the milestone came is that in 2018, some significant changes occurred, and the government organization I was working in was going in some different directions, and the impact that I had been able to have there, it was time to turn it over to let other people take the reins and do things differently and take it into the next stage of growth.
Okay.
So I went into my business, and I've been getting some clients and some trainings and coaching clients and some systems initiatives that were starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So the decision came about going into this business full time. So this idea that I had in 2015 turned into a full-blown consulting company in the December of 2018. And then last year was the first full year in business full time. And now fast forward into 2020, I'm now moving into my second year full-time in business. And in the last few months, I've hired a team. I have a team of multiple facilitators. I have 6 different people working in different capacities as consultants or as trainers or as support team or as graphic designers. We rotate in and out. So to be able to walk into a situation like this and not only maintain a brand new full-time business, but also grow and then pull everything that I've learned in the program and from experience into helping other people navigate change and chaos, really manage to figure out how they're going to leverage their success factors and their strengths, how are they going to figure out what's they're working and what they need to stick and be able to also have an impact for them has been so incredibly rewarding. So yeah, so second full-time year in business in the middle of a pandemic, and the impact's increasing, if
That's
anything, with some very helpful strategic partners and impacts, some of whom also came out of the MSOD program.
So that's great. So that where your company is today,
Yeah.
is this what you saw? Was this the vision in 2015? And what changed, or is it different? Is it changed? How does what the company looks like today relate to those early visions you had way back in 2015?
So when I started the program, I'm going to go back to 2008, which is when I started the MSOD program, because that's when the vision really started to get clear. I was working in a large scale system with a whole bunch of people trying to make large scale system change. And I knew that if I was going to be able to contribute in the way that I wanted to, I needed to bump up my skills. So that was where I committed to the program, and I was asking questions, and I got resources, and I got access to all of these thought leaders, not only from the professors, but also from, like you and I worked on some projects together, and really learned from my colleagues in the program, internationally, locally, as well as from these amazing professors who were helping share their thought leadership. So when I began thinking about my own business, my goal was adamantly, I'm not interested in running my own business. It's not what I want to do. My initial thought was to develop my skill set so that I can then move out and work within a consulting field or within a larger consulting organization. And I'd been building the skills and the interest to build my business in a way that I was practicing business development and consulting and training and getting a chance to play with stakeholder engagement in a lot of different arenas outside of just my background in education, behavioral health, and government. And then expanding that into industries like IT and corporate and nonprofits beyond what my experience had been.
Okay.
So my original design had never originally been to take this full time. It was a fascinating switch for me to go in that direction. And it really came where, as different opportunities were starting to stick, the consulting opportunities, the job offers, whatever it may be, the impact, when I got clear on what I wanted to do and the impact that I wanted to have and the joy that came with making a difference for people that were tied to my underlying passion projects and why, it was no longer a choice. I'm able to have that kind of impact with my strategic partners by doing it on my own and not working under someone else's umbrella, because now I can do it for a much wider scope. And it's been pretty incredible. So yeah, it's completely shifted gears.
So let's talk about one of the things you mentioned. It also ties back to the green room conversation we had. You said that one of your goals is to create experiences for your clients, and it sounds like you have a lot of passion around that. So what do you mean by that? What is it that what do you hope people and the organizations they're a part of, what do you hope they take away from these experiences that you're looking to provide?
So many people, do training or do meeting engagement or facilitate projects. What I realize people are really craving is the experience in terms of being able to tap into the strengths that they bring to the table, to the internal gifts, as well as being able to get guidance from an objective perspective. So that interactive component is very different. One of the things I did an independent study on and focused on in the MSOD program was really identifying the difference between a trainer, a facilitator, and a practitioner. And what I walked away with these huge ahas of there has to be a different way of doing it. We'd be in so many meetings where we'd have great designs and great agendas and great panelists and great speakers. And we'd end up with this giant report that sat on a shelf and nothing ever got implemented. And my number one rule in life is do not waste people's time. I'm there has to be a better way of doing that. So for me, it's all about communication and bringing people together. So my entire focus at that point shifted into the innuendos of facilitating an experience for people where I'm the least important person in the conversation. I may be the trainer. I may be leading the consulting project. I may be the coach in the situation. But the person who needs to stay front and center are the people who need to do something with that information or with those changes when I leave.
Is that,
and that to me was profound.
yeah, is that, so that sounds like, cause I noticed that, your working title is change facilitator. So
yes, it is. I made that up. Change management change management means something in our world. We have our certifications. I, did the work and did all the change and organizational change and the change management. So I get it. That title came from the work I did with my own coaches and my own professors and leaders of asking, what is it that I do? And I played with a lot of words and a lot of language. I'm like, well, positive and necessary change, and helping to facilitate that process for other people so that they're the ones doing the work. It has to meet their needs, their priorities. I mean, that's, behavioral, bringing in the behavioral piece, bringing in the positive behavior support piece, bringing in the whole system into the room from an idealized design or systems change level of having the ideas and the energy and the motivation go way beyond buy-in into ownership. And that means that my role in the process is facilitating it, and I help people facilitate positive and necessary change in whatever that is for them on that individual level, the group level, the organizational, the systems. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. So you said to progress, beyond from buy-in to ownership.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you? How do you measure that? How do you know when someone has made that transformation?
So it's on the So how do you measure where someone's made that transformation? And it may be a transformation that happens in a moment. And sometimes you don't know because it's something where a change starts to happen. And sometimes what only happens in the beginning of a really big change is the acceptance that the change is going to happen, the change has happened, or a change needs to happen. So the actual action may not come until later. And the shift might be And so when you're a facilitator and you're paying attention to more than just the words, and you're picking up on the body language, and you're picking up on the way that you can see and feel how someone shifts something, when you're face holding for other people, and you can say, oh, that light goes off in them, you see that spark of energy, and they're like, I got this, I'm good, I don't need any more, I got this, and then they just go and start doing, then something has really stuck. And so sometimes it depends on the level of work that we're doing in terms of a change. Now, with a large-scale change initiative, you can see those actions right away because the stakeholders start to set up their own meetings. They start to do the work themselves, and they finally get in with we actually don't need you anymore. We're good. You got us started. We can do this ourselves. And that to me is one of the greatest things a client can say to me. We've got this. You got us started. You helped us tap into our strengths. We know what to do next. Thank you very much. My job has been done.
In some respects, you're almost working yourself out of a job.
I am continually working my way out of a job until another interpersonal meeting. Here's the one thing about industries. The one consistency across all industries is they're filled with people, and people are messy. So there will always be some new situation that comes up where wherever people and processes start to bang into each other, that wherever that happens, that's where there's going to be need for support for communication or need for an objective perspective to come in and help them re-tap into their strengths or rebuild the motivation or navigate things when it goes sideways or strengthen a culture that's already working, which is candidly a lot of where I spend my time.
So
strengthening cultures that are already working, as well as addressing cultures where things need to get fixed.
So that's interesting. So you said that you're spending a lot of time helping, companies and organizations and people achieve a higher gear. So not necessarily elevation. Okay. How is that different? How is elevation different from walking into an obvious problem or starting something where there's what's different about the elevation process versus the tear it down and start over from scratch process?
So when you're working from strengthening what's already working and you help people realize what they're already doing well, the stress level decreases. There seems to be more time and patience with the changes that need to happen, or they're able to just move ahead and do something with it because they're starting from something that's already working versus going from something to something else. it's a much bigger energetic time and financial commitment, because you're then talking about, one of the biggest things I took away from the MSOD program was the work with Martin Stankard and, John Eldred in Power and Politics, about that letting go and what is the resistance to change. And why do people, whether it's in the Lean Sigma or the process improvement or the group dynamics and all of those classes throughout the program where we dug into, why is change so hard? Mm-hmm. And when people are having to go from something that's not working to something else, or sometimes an ownership, it's not just about we need to change a process that's not working. I might be the person who built that process. Mm-hmm. So for me, that system, that process, that email format was something I own, so it feels more personal. So there's a letting go that has to happen that's not so concrete sometimes when you're moving from something to something else. And the people who created the first something are like, no, we thought about that. We're not doing it that way. Well, we didn't do that way. And then there's a whole thing that has to happen, and there's not always time for those conversations. Versus the other part that you asked me, which is about when you're starting with people's strengths, mm-hmm. even when things aren't working, and you start from people's strength versus just jumping into the work, it looks, sounds, and feels very, very different. Even the work-related questions, where you're like, okay, this isn't working. Let's talk about what is. Let's talk about the strength. Let's talk about the success factors. Let's at least, if nothing else, start from a place of respect.
Okay.
And then we can have a conversation around it to reach that common ground, to navigate the conflict respectfully, to communicate around it so we can more objectively look at the change that needs to happen and do it together. So we're not leaving a piece out, or, not taking a systems approach where a really important consideration gets missed and the right people aren't at the table or in the discussion. So to me, it's about building on strengths when things are working really well and elevating it so that you are prepared when things go sideways. Because inevitably they're going to go sideways, or something's going to change. It's inevitable.
Sure. That the only constant is that is
the only constant is that there's no constant. Yeah.
So that's good. That really, that kind of ties into an earlier comment you made about people needing to move beyond buy-in to reach ownership. So elevating those strengths. Moving from a place of where things are working just maybe not as well as they could, or maybe not optimally. That's a different place. That's a different journey. Sounds like it's a much more rewarding journey for the people involved and for you as the facilitator in that.
It is. And, the feedback that I've gotten, with all of my clients or evaluations or feedback, I really do consider all of the people who I work with on my team, as well as all of my clients, to be strategic partners in impact. And making decisions, it's about getting it right, not about being right. And that flexibility in terms of what's working and what's not is objectively, because if we want to get it right for the people who have to do something with this, the people who need the support, we have to make things better. And that means that they have to be part of the process. They have to be part of the conversation. And so many times, go ahead. I would say training.
No, I just
all the time.
I've got to repeat that thing you just said, because I think it's so powerful. It's about getting it right, not about being right.
That is a giant slide that I put in all the stuff. And I will tell you that came out of my conversation with one of my very valued team members, where we were talking and we were like, what do we do? Because it really isn't like, we get so stuck on the thoughts in our head, like I'm going to get my idea and I'm going to get my agenda and I'm going to show that I'm right. And, when you're dealing with conflict resolution, when you're aiming for common ground, someone ultimately needs to make the decision. So, that's a whole nother podcast of what happens when people don't want to make decisions. So ultimately someone needs to make a decision. And at the same time, my ultimate piece helps us all as leaders be non-defensive. Because I do believe that each person is a leader regardless of their pay grade, regardless of their length of time in the industry or that organization, regardless of their positional power. When it comes down to relational power, and we're really looking at where people can make a difference and have an influence and use their voice and show up to strengthen a culture and then address things aren't working by building on those strengths and taking the mindset of, I'm going to work on getting it right. So that can be as simple as someone giving feedback about an email, or someone giving feedback about, something that you did. And it's those like 360 feedback pieces on giving and receiving feedback. If we approach all of these conversations from the perspective of, my intention is to get it right for the client, to get it right for our team, to get it right for myself. We need to get it right and not worry so much about my perspective is the only perspective. And I know, like, I have to be right. So many layers on that. I'm so glad that's the piece that jumped out at you, because that was like a life-changing epiphany for me as well, of what a mindset shift.
Yeah, it's a powerful statement, right? It's a very powerful statement. And as you mentioned, it ties in so many other things. I think it opens up so many more doors to better communication and more meaningful communication. And, another comment that you made there that I really latched onto is it just helps, it helps everyone as leaders, be less defensive. You're not, your motives aren't questioned. You're able to approach it from a place of authenticity that one of the things that I stumbled across, a great comment from the Harvard Business Review study on authenticity was, the mark of a great leader is to be able to build followers. Right?
Yeah.
Like, followers are just as important to leadership. And how do you build that followership? Well, you have to earn people's trust, and having that focus on getting it right and getting everybody else to adopt that mindset is a big part of the work that you're doing. That's what's coming through to me loud and clear.
I'm so glad that you heard that through the lens. I mean, one of the things, whether it was, talking in the Leading from the Middle course with Martin Stankard, or the servant leadership piece that we explored with John Eldred, or Janet Greco's approach to storytelling and how we ask questions as a leader from whatever position, again, relational power, not positional power, we are in. And is really how we then ultimately implement the changes that need to happen and better let go of the things that we can't influence. The changes that are going to happen, whether we want them to or not, they're happening.
So, we are in a social distancing environment right now. So, Janet and the other professors can't pay you the $20 for those comments. So if you want to insert your Venmo here, then we can let them pay that forward. That was very, very good plugs.
I'll put that toward my Penn tuition. Yeah. Because, that was 100% on me. Yeah. Okay. That's very.
But all kidding aside, you and I, we took classes together eons ago, yeah. And I'm going to date us by saying that, we were joking the other day as we were talking that, we each have stacks of 3-ring binders. So for those of you that may be new to the program, 3-ring binders were when we actually received printed material, not on stone tablets or papyrus, but actually on paper. We received some of that class material. So what are some of the things that, you joke that you still have your stacks of binders. I can see them behind you. What are some of the core concepts? Is there one or two things that jump out? Is there a series of things that you find yourself, constantly, leaning back on or drawing from your time in the program?
So in addition to some of the things I've already shared along the way, there are 3 really big ones that are coming up for me. The first has to do with really taking everything from as much of a systems approach with having the right people in the conversation as possible, and thinking through what something might look like on the individual level, on the group level, and on the large scale organization or systems level, and making sure that all of those pieces are aligned. That alignment between the individual, the group, and the systems levels is also tied to my second takeaway, which is about alignment with our own thoughts, our own words, and our own actions, where some of the work that I dug into in terms of, I love assessments, self-assessments especially, I love growth, with leadership styles and conflict resolution styles. And in that I had these huge awarenesses that what I thought I was doing as a leader, how I thought I was comfortable with conflict, turns out I was a hot mess because I was actually inconsistent. And I remember, John Eldred saying to me, I was like, oh, I'm so proud of my results of this study and my leadership pieces on this. I'm so great because I'm a different person all the time. And he said, yeah, no, that's not good. You're actually inconsistent. And since then, I've completely shifted that. So, it was great. So having those insights, that was a second big piece, is how do we make sure that our words and our actions and our thoughts are all aligned so the impact that we think we're having is actually the impact that we're having for ourselves and for the people who we lead and for our clients, for all of the stuff, right? All the layers. The third one had to do with the critical importance that change is inevitable and that we have to get really comfortable at knowing who we are, what our strengths with, and getting really comfortable with the mindset of knowing that no matter what comes, no matter what shifts, no matter what comes down the line, we need to get through our resistance to change. We need to find out what we're resisting, what other people are resisting, what are the areas that we can keep working when things go sideways, so that we can remain relevant, so that we can continue having an impact, and so that we can do it collaboratively with people, not at the expense of them.
Okay.
So those were some of my bigger takeaways from the program that have guided everything that I've done since.
That's great. So, and that, honestly, I think that sets up nicely this current project that you're working on. Your newest project, as we were talking about, the one of the foundations is this wonderful Japanese concept of Ichago, essentially translated as a reason for being or reason for living. So why is this concept so important to you?
So the project that you're referring to is my book. And I'm working right now on a book about leveraging your success factors and really designing the strategic career pathway so that people at mid-careers, early careers, can create the career pathway that leads to success as they define it. The Ikigai concept, when I came across that, was mind-changing for me. It shifted my worldview. So we talked earlier in the podcast, we talked earlier in our conversation that in 2015, I began asking questions. In 2008, I was asking questions. You'll see the theme is I'm constantly asking. That might be another huge takeaway from the program. Constantly asking questions and making sure whether they're the appreciative inquiry questions or the action inquiry questions or change, whatever, all the questions. And one of the things I realized is when I came across the concept of Ikigai is it focuses on the intersection of some really important work-life quality areas. What is it you're good at? What is it you love to do? What is it the world needs? And what is it that you can get paid for? And I would, in so many stages of my own career and what I see for other people is we often are living in two of those quadrants, and there's some layers in between it, but we're living in two of those quadrants or maybe three. When we can design a strategic career pathway with that as a guide and then get really clear on our strengths, get really clear on our concrete skills, get really clear on our success factors, get really clear on our own guiding compass, get really clear on the environments where we thrive, like all of the stuff around it, then we can aim for Ikigai and we can wake up one day, which is what happened to me a year ago in April. Right after I had gone full time and I had some big decisions coming my way about which direction I wanted to take my career pathway in, that consulting opportunity opened up. At the same time, all of my passion projects and nonprofits and IT coaching issues, all this like training things, all the things were opening up and I had a decision to make. And I woke up that morning in the kitchen and I'm like, I'm living my Ikigai. Right now, I am living my Ikigai. Now, it's going to change over time and my Ikigai may change. So what I'm good at, what I love to do, what the world needs, and what I can get paid for, those quadrants are going to morph. But that core in the middle of aligning myself, my words, thoughts, and actions to always aim for that center piece and make sure that I'm not just choosing one or two of them has brought so much fulfillment. And it's where the work is sticking. And it makes career path decisions so clear. It gets rid of all the ambiguity. It gets rid of all the uncertainty. It helps you attract the strategic partners who will help you get to where you need to be. The sponsors, the champions, the people who see you bigger than you sometimes see yourself. and are like, I can help you get there. Okay. Who sometimes believe in you more than you believe in your, but you can be so clear. I want other people to wake up and say, I have the work-life quality that I want. I am satisfied. I have achieved successes. I define it and I continue to do so. And I give myself permission to redefine it at different stages of my life. And that is so powerful. And there's such a joy. And I believe that life is too short not to feel as fulfilled as possible in all of our areas. So I really appreciate your question.
That is some powerful stuff. I think it's a really good message. And I think that all throughout, as you've been talking about these different concepts, one of the things that's come through very clearly is that need to the importance of communication throughout all of that. Not just communicating, but also that the concept that I repeated, and I'm going to say it again. Getting it right, not about being right. That applies in so many different levels to individuals, to organizations, to the introspection of aligning your priorities across that Ichago framework. Just about, and letting go of the things that might be in your way or that might be scary. And it's all part of that change management process. So
yeah, or letting go of the things that used to be your priority. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and you get the job offer you dreamed you had. And you're like, I'm turning it down. Like my dad's still, he's still not over that yet. He's a little bit over it now. No, but it's like, I've been working. And I woke up one day and I'm like, my Ichago, my passion, my why is so clear, and who I want to help, what I want to help, the positive and necessary impact that I am designed to have can't be put into so I had it's a letting go of what I thought.
Yeah. So you're living this, right? You're leading by example. You made a comment that everybody, regardless of title or salary or occupation, there are always leadership opportunities. Yeah. And here you are, you're living that example as you help others through those change processes too.
Yeah. So I just want everyone to feel that way, because I had amazing mentors and champions when I was early on in my career, in my 20s and in my 30s, who gave me opportunities way beyond my job title and that has been a consistent piece. And so to be able to do that for as many people as possible, and help supervisors, these dedicated supervisors who want to support their teams while also managing, like all of the different pieces I just want others to, it's a combination of what I've studied, like life, we bring to it what we know, what we've experienced, and who we are. And my book and all the work that I do is about helping people make the connection between what they know, what they've experienced, and who they are that makes them different from everybody else who may look and sound the same on paper.
That is a noble pursuit. And I commend you for having the courage to do that, right? It wasn't a blind leap of faith. It was, in many cases, it was you taking actions based on, those years of experience and learning and questioning and building upon that. So,
and a lot of mistakes along the way.
A lot of mistakes.
A lot of things that went sideways along the way. Yeah.
So one of the things that Steve and I have started to do with season 2, right? Because you've given us such a tremendous amount of information, and I really appreciate the time that you spent with us to kind of to share the concepts and the foundations of your personal journey and the practice and your goals for helping others. So I want to shift gears now to a segment that we've incorporated into season 2, where I'm going to give you a series of rapid fire questions. I say rapid fire because I'm going to ask you the question and I want you to say the first thing that pops into your head. The first one word, one sentence answer. And you haven't seen these questions yet, so there'll be a little bit. I have not.
And it's really fun because usually I'm the one doing rapid fire through these questions at my clients in my Improv Inspired trainings, which I was doing this morning. So it'll be really fun to be on the other end of it.
So,
all right, what do you got?
Question number 1. What is one thing you would most like to do in your life that you haven't yet done?
Travel to additional parts of the world and eat all the food.
I'm going to be more. All right. So you do a lot of traveling. So you gotta bring it down. You're at 30,000 feet. Bring you down.
I want to go hike extra mountains and visit the fjords in Norway.
All right. Hike in Norway. Awesome.
Hike and visit the fjords in Norway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So question number 2, in your opinion, what's one thing that the world needs right now?
Supports navigating change consistently and with a lot less stress.
Number 3, if you were back in school today, thinking about starting a career, what would you want to be when you grow up?
Me. I'm doing it.
Question number 4, what hobby or activity outside of your work brings you joy?
Oh, dancing. Dancing. I'll do rapid fire. Dancing, hiking, playing with my nephew, writing books, and telling stories.
All right, period. That's your sentence. So what person, living or past, has inspired you the most?
My sister. She compliments me in a way that brings out strengths of mine that wouldn't have come out of me any other way, and she's made me a better version of myself. She's a huge reason why I'm able to show up the way I'm able to show up for others.
It's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And last thing, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the last thing you read?
Janet Ivanovich's something 21 fictional story, because my brain was overloaded last night.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. So I've been talking
nonsense words. Yeah.
That's your answer. It's recorded. We're done. That's a wrap. So I've been talking today and having a fabulous time with Erica Wexler, founder and CEO of Erica Wexler Transforms. So be sure to follow her on your favorite social media platform. You can find her online at ericawexlertransforms.com. You can also follow her on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram. We'll put all those links in the bio of the podcast. Erica, thank you again so much for your time. Best of luck with the upcoming projects, the book, and the practice, and the next milestone.
Zach, this was a blast as always. I'm so glad we were able to collaborate again.
Thank you again. So, and a special thank you to our technical producer, Dan Shields. And with that, I'm Zach Davis with Learning Aloud, a podcast for the organizational dynamics community at the University of Pennsylvania.